Hello and welcome back to another segment of Terminating Low Voltage Cables. Again, I'm Ron with IDEAL and welcome to my channel. Hey, in this segment I'm going to show you the basic uses of a telecommunications snip or electrician snip, whatever you want to call it. And this in the phone and data world, if you don't know it, is a hammer. This is a really basic tool. And if you don't know how to use this, well then I'm going to wonder if you know how to use anything else. And based on how you hold these and use these, I can quickly tell if you've been in the business very long. So when the big man's watching you, if you watch this video, maybe at least he'll think you know what you're doing. So I'm going to show you how to hold them properly and some of the features and benefits and things we can do with a pair of snips. But first, let's take a kind of a close-up view and take a look at what one of these things looks like. Here you have a pretty good close-up of a pair of snips, fresh out of the packaging, nice and clean looking, look beautiful, don't they? And when I look at a pair of snips, so one thing interesting on either side here, you'll see some serrated edges here on this side of this blade, and again the same thing, you'll see some serrated edges on this side. The reasons we have those serrations are there are times when conductors have gotten enough of corrosion on them, oxidation, that we might want to try and rub it off, and we can simply rub the conductors down that serrated edge to help knock off that oxidation. Now, when I look at a pair of snips, it's got the conventional two hoops in the back here. The standard style's been around for many, many years. There's a distinction here right in between the two tines that open up. When you close them, there is a slight gap here. In a minute, when I grab the snips, or in the next segment, show you actually how to hold them. That's where I'm going to grab them. My thumb is going to reach in here and use that to help open up the pair of snip. Now, when you look at the snips, of course, there are two blades here. And if I haven't said it yet, these are really, really sharp. So be careful with them because they can cause some bodily damage. And when you look at the two blades, one blade is nice and smooth if you looked at it, and the other blade, if you looked at it, would be more of a serrated edge to it. And we like these serrated edges because it tends to grab things in the snip as we lay them in there, and the wire doesn't come shooting out the end there. So we like that serrated edges. So if you're going to sharpen your snips, you might want to sharpen the smooth side, not that serrated side. And then one of the neat little feature here is that one of the blades has some small little notches cut out of it, and you won't find that on this side. The little notches, one's a 22 and the other one's a 24 gauge notch. So when we hold the snip in our hands, we've got the notches down, and if I need to strip the outer conductors of a wire for some reason, and normally we don't have to do this much anymore, but if you have one of the old screw terminals, we would want to take the conductor and lay it in the little notch like that, and take our finger and kind of lift up on it, and when you kind of flip your fingers, it takes the outer jacketing off the individual conductors themselves. So there's kind of a quick close-up, and the next segment I'll actually show you how to use these to strip some category cable. Well, here we are, and we're going to actually use a pair of snips to get a little work done. And as we said it earlier in the clip, that you know, when you grab your snips in the industry, it says a lot for if you know much about what you're doing. Because I tell you, most people, when I hand them a pair of snips, will grab them like you would a normal pair of scissors. And phone data guy just actually doesn't hold it this way. This is how we used to spot those new guys in the field. And so I'll show you the proper way of holding one. Now, when you look at a pair of snips, there's two hoops in it, okay, on the top, and again the pair snip is pointing down. And when you look at the two blades, again, the one blade's got the two notches in it that we use for stripping the outer conductors if we have to, or outer insulation off a conductor if we have to. We want them over there, so I want them over there. Okay? And when I insert my hand, and again I'm a righty, into the snip, and if I was the lefty, I'd do the opposite. I'm going to insert that ring finger in with that first hoop, okay? And you'll notice my pinky is kind of pointing to this other hoop, but I ain't got nothing in there, okay? Now the reason I'm holding it this way is because the technician can plop it in his hand like this and use it for cutting and stripping wire, and I can dangle it and then use my fingers still to, you know, rewire something if I have to, and again pop that back in my hand, I'm ready to use it, okay? Now, when I go to open up the pair of snip, and I have the little gap right between the two little tines here, the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to take my thumb and press it in between the two tines, which will open them up so I can spread open the pair of snip and then use my palm to squeeze with. So I can open and close, open and close the snip. Okay, and the reason I'm also holding it this way is you got to understand, for a telephone guy, you know, he don't have no diagonals or side cutters. Again, I'm a phone guy. So I got this, so I run across larger cables, which are, you know, sometimes 25 pairs and bigger. I'm going to hack through it with a pair of snips, and I get a lot of leverage if I'm using my palm to squeeze with, versus if I was just kind of squeezing like I would a normal pair of snips, if I held it like a normal pair of snips. So that's how we get around to hold them. They get to a point where they feel really good in the old hand, and you'll use them like this all day long. And when we look at how we strip Kateri wire with one, we'll come down a cable, you know, 4 or 5 inches, apply a little pressure here, and I'm going to score the jacketing pretty good. And when I do that, that lets me now remove this outer jacketing off the cable. Now, I know I damaged the cables here, and I need to remove any of this because it's going to might cause problems. So the cabling manufacturers install what are called rip cords in the cabling, and this is why we needed 4 or 5 inches. We need to get our hands on top of it and pull on it. It will peel right through the jacketing for me. And now I can use my snip to, again, open it up and cut that nylon cord out of my way, and it ripped a slot in the cabling. Now I can peel back that outer jacket, and again, use my snip to kind of trim that off as flush as I can get it. And then I'm going to use my snip and trim it generally to about 2 inches is where we're going to tell you when I put it on a modular plug or a Cat 5e jack. And that's how we would go about actually stripping the wire. Now, if you had to, if I'm a phone guy and I needed to remove 10, 12, 15 feet of outer jacketing off this cable to wire up an entire telephone closet, the only way to do that is with that rip cord and with a pair of snips. Normal conventional stripper, you couldn't make a cut and then pull off that much jacketing off, it just wouldn't come. So, and again, you know, if we run across those situations where we are dealing with one of these older telephone connections that have the screw terminals in them, we would then utilize the notches on the on the tool itself and lay the conductor in the notch, and then use it to again strip the conductor or the outer jacketing off the conductors themselves. And one of the reasons I started holding the tool like I did, and I've got my ring finger in that one tine, and I got the notches on this side, is that when I plop it in my hand and I go to make that cutting motion or that stripping motion, I'm pulling the wire into the cutting edge of the tool. Whereas if I was pulling it the opposite way, it wouldn't actually work. So that's the proper use of a pair of snips. And again, they'll get to a point where they just feel really good in your hand, and you can do just about anything with them. So thanks again for coming to another segment. Again, I'm Ron with IDEAL, and we'll see you next time.